Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most foundational, most influential stories ever told, the biblical account of creation. We're going to see what this ancient story has to say about the very beginning of, well, everything. I mean, it's the big one, right? It's a question every single one of us has probably asked. It's the ultimate search for an origin story, a deep, human need to understand who we are and how in the world we got here. And it turns out that pretty much any big picture story, what you might call a worldview, it has to answer these four huge questions. They're like the basic building blocks for making sense of reality. And for this explainer, we are laser focused on that very first one. Where did we come from? Now, to do that, we have to look at the Bible not as just a collection of separate books, but as one single, overarching story that flows from a clear beginning to a clear end. The fancy word for this is metanarrative. It just means the big story. Think of it this way. It's about stepping back from all the individual trees so you can finally see the shape of the entire forest. That's what we're doing today. So this timeline, it kind of lays out that whole forest for us. The biblical story really moves in four major acts: creation, then the fall, followed by redemption, and finally what theologians call consummation. Our journey today starts right at the very beginning, with creation. And here it is, the opening line of the entire Bible. Now, what's so important to get here is that this isn't just the beginning of a story happening within some bigger context. Nope, this is presented as the beginning of time itself. It's the most zoomed out in the beginning you can possibly get. And there are some huge ideas packed into just this one sentence. First, God is the creator, and he's totally separate from the universe he made. Second, he exists outside of time. And third, and this is a big one, this is creation ex nihilo. That's Latin for out of nothing. The idea is that there was no pre-existing stuff, no cosmic soup. God just brought everything into existence from nothing.
But the story doesn't just say God snapped his fingers and everything appeared at once. Instead, it describes this really deliberate, beautiful process of bringing order and purpose out of chaos.
So the story sets the stage with this picture of chaos. It's formless, it's empty, and it's dark. And what we get to watch is God taking absolute delight in bringing order out of all that chaos, light out of the darkness, and filling what was once totally empty. And as it unfolds, you can see this incredible pattern emerge. It's this beautiful, elegant symmetry. Look at this. On days 1, 2, and 3, God forms 3 separate realms: light and dark, the sky and seas, and the dry land. Then on days 4, 5, and 6, he comes back and fills those exact same realms with the sun and moon, the birds and fish, and finally land animals and us. It's a picture of really careful and deliberate design. And at the end of each step, we hear this little refrain like a drum beat, and God saw that it was good. Now, this isn't just God admiring his work. It's telling us that goodness, a kind of moral rightness, was woven right into the fabric of the universe from the very start. But then, on day 6, the whole narrative pattern takes this dramatic turn. Everything has been leading up to this moment, the climax of the entire creation story. See, up until this point, every plant and animal was made after its kind. But when it comes to people, the language just completely shifts. The text says, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Whoa, that is a massive break in the pattern, and it's a huge signal that something totally unique and different is happening right now. So what on earth does it mean to be made in God's image? Well, it's really about our job, our function, and here's why this idea was so revolutionary back then. In the ancient world, only the king or the pharaoh was considered the image of a god. So this story comes along and makes this absolutely radical claim that every single human being, not just the royals, shares in this divine responsibility. Think of it like this. A king would put a statue of himself in a far-off land to say, "I rule here." We are all meant to be God's living statues, reflecting his good rule and character all over the world. So with humanity now created as the pinnacle of this whole process, God sets up the perfect place for them to live and carry out this role. And now, after people are on the scene, that final evaluation changes. It's not just good anymore. The whole thing, the entire creation in its finished state, is now declared very good. And that signifies a kind of perfection, a wholeness.
This very good world is centered in a place we all know, the Garden of Eden, and life there is described as just perfect harmony. God was right there, walking with them. There was no pain, no suffering, no death, just total peace and everything they could ever need.
But Eden wasn't just some pretty park. The design of it was meant to be like a temple. It was a sacred spot, this cosmic intersection where God's space and human space, heaven and earth, overlapped completely. So let's circle all the way back to our original question. According to this story, where did we come from? Well, the answer is pretty clear. We came from a good God who purposefully created a very good world and designed us to be his representatives in it, living in perfect harmony with him. But that, of course, just leads to the next absolutely massive question. If everything started out so very good, what in the world went wrong? We'll get into that next time. Thanks for joining me.